What's up, everybody, and welcome to a very special live with. Today, we're sitting down with Andrey Akpinar. Geez, I apologize, Andrey. Andrey, you may know for the Moment X playing cards, which are currently live on Kickstarter. Andrey is an amazing cardist who decided to actually create his own deck of cards with a really cool theme behind it, which is kind of this whole idea of a single point in time that will never exist again in that capacity, which I absolutely love this deck, man, and it's really, really cool to see. So how did you come up with this deck? What really kind of prompted this whole concept?
Look, I've always been someone who, in movies, especially when you see certain moments with actors, especially, and how they portray certain roles, you look at them and you think, this person is making a character come to life, right? And I always saw these moments when I'm taking photos. I'm thinking, they are things that really can never be recreated, just like actors and their characters. You cannot recreate them with someone else. You have to, completely divulge yourself into a role in order for it to come to life. And I wanted to do the same with this. I wanted to make sure that, every moment, even if it's something mundane, that I can make it into something that I saw from my perspective, and how it made me feel, and try to portray that in a deck of my own.
That's cool.
I was one day last year, I was in a graffiti tunnel in Sydney, and they allow legal graffiti, and so everywhere you look for like a kilometer, it's just one massive artwork piece there, and you can go there any point in time. You can do graffiti as much as you like. Nice. And I was there, I was taking photos, and I was doing some cardistry, and I thought, you know what, this place looks really, really sick, and I love the color schemes here. Let me just do some graffiti for the fun of it. And I started doing some graffiti, and I thought, let me just take a photo of this. This looks really sick. And I came home, and I was in post, and I was thinking, if I just mash this and this together, some of the cardistry and the graffiti together, how would it look like? And it looked okay, but then I started playing around with more sort of like psychedelic abstract manipulations, and I thought, this looks even better at this point. And then I just kept increasing the level of what I was doing with it until I came to a point where I was really satisfied with how it actually looked like.
That's really cool, man.
That's cool. I love hearing stories on how decks are created, especially when they're so creative.
Yeah, no, and I really like the idea that, again, you were just kind of, realized that in this moment, it was unique and beautiful, and wanted to take it and kind of memorialize it in a way that, you could represent, but again, that it would never exist again. Like, that whole concept is really kind of next level. And I think a lot of people kind of don't go through life thinking about that. There's you always find inspirational quotes that are like, oh, you have 86,400 seconds in a day. How do you spend them? And I feel like they really kind of almost get over promoted to a point that you're like, okay, cool. I've heard this a million times, but I'm reading through your campaign on this, and I'm just like, wow, this is really cool. This whole concept of capturing that moment that you enjoyed and being able to share it with other people in a way that's meaningful to not just you, but potentially them as well, was just really, really inspiring.
Thank you. It means a lot, honestly. It means a lot, and it's really nice hearing that, especially, just from where it started and how, how completely, I didn't even, at that point, I didn't even think of making a deck, to be honest. I was completely just doing it for the fun of it. Yeah. So it's just really crazy to think that, people like it, and people can see, that sort of behind the scenes and still like that, even so many months later. And I know that, when I was thinking about this deck, and I was thinking, the specific area in which I was in, it was, I think, the day before, I think it was 2 weeks of nonstop rain that was bound to happen after that. Yeah. And I was there at 4 p.m. And in Sydney around that time, it was, getting to summer. So it was a longer day, but the lighting changes every 15 minutes. Some places are darker, some places are lighter. And that specific photo for each part will never be the same. It will never actually come again in that same time. I will probably never find that angle that I took it at the same way, in the same position, with the same lighting ever again. And I thought, that is something mind-blowing to me. When you hear if you shuffle a deck of cards, you can never get the same combination twice or something. Yeah. I've heard that one before, and that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, well, if I can never get to the same combination twice, no matter how much I try, that's something special. And that's something that people can look at and think, damn, like that's something there that will just never happen. I'm looking at something that will never happen again.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a memory of the past, but something for people to look at and think, I need to focus more on this moment here where I am, instead of like focusing on absolutely everything else, and just focus on one thing, and that's the moment that you have in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, that's rare for people to do,
Yeah, I know, and unfortunately, but in this day and age, we're so focused on social media, we're so focused on clouds, and you don't focus on the world around you. You're just focusing on phones, and trying to make like the best move and what's next.
What are you talking about? I don't do that.
I love it. No, and it's 100% true, and really kind of focusing on that moment and holding on to that moment is something that we all can take away from, and really realize that those are the things that make us who we are, but also are the impactful things. You look at, again, and I think it's actually something, it's funny because, being a cardist, you have this whole different approach to cards, obviously, than a magician or than a collector. But think about those times when you've decided to learn a new move, and that time that you finally hit that, like got that move perfect for the first time. Like that's a moment in time that should stick with people, and it does, but we don't realize it. We hold on to it. We cherish it, but in a weird way, we almost forget it also until it's brought back to us. And it seems like really these cards were a way to not only focus on moments as a whole, but on that specific moment, which is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? It's funny that you say that, because a few nights ago I was making some moves, and I felt like this sort of huge satisfaction when you hit that consistency with what you're doing, or it's like the first time that it actually looks like something decent and doesn't look like 52 pickup every single time you try and do it.
There's nothing wrong with 52 pickup. I do it all the time.
Yeah, I do it literally all the time. Like my cards, all of them that I have right now that I'm using, they're all pooped out by now, just because of the amount of times I'm just picking them up from the floor. So no, I get it. No, but it's definitely something very special and very special to me. Like I mean, not many people know about it, because I don't usually promote it, or I don't really post anything about it. But I have been doing magic for about 8 years now, and I used to do it professionally for about 4 years, and then I stopped doing it professionally, A, because of COVID, but B, because I wanted to focus more on cardistry and to devote more time to that, and especially now with this deck. But and you guys would know, either watching or performing magic, you guys would know that when that moment, either as an audience member or as a performer, when you have that moment of astonishment and you feel that sort of raw intensity of bewilderment, and then you realize, I did not realize that could be possible. I didn't know that could happen. Yeah. And that's the type of thing that I wanted to sort of implement into my own deck. Like I didn't want to just make like a design and be done with it. I wanted to have a story behind it that people either could relate to, or that they can feel that they want to relate to.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to do.
You know what the coolest thing about it is, obviously that moment in time is embedded in your memory, right? But when people get the deck, they'll create their own memories around that deck, So that's the cool thing about obviously any object, anything. It's when people start creating their own moments in time, and it's kind of like the trickle down effect.
Thank you, Mark. We appreciate the support, man.
Mark, thank you so much.
So, Andre, I don't know if you know who Jackson Robinson is, and not to, shit on Jackson and all there. I say that because I don't know how much cardistry bleeds into collecting, but Jackson is probably one of the top 3, if not one of the, well, he's hands down the highest producing fully custom collector's deck designer out there. No question about it. Dude puts out more decks per year than anybody else. No question about it. Like unique decks, crazy. Does beautiful work, really collector focused. But the reason I bring him up is he just commented in here. He goes, I'm looking at this Moment X deck, looking really nice. Great new look to the cardistry deck. So
that's so nice.
That coming from Jackson is a big deal, because Jackson is really a master artist. So
thank you, Jackson. That's really cool. That's really kind and really cool of you. Like I'll be honest, I haven't I've heard of your name. I haven't. I don't know too much about you, but don't you know? I don't mean to be of any offense, but you know, I will look into your work. I love to see different designs, and you know, it's really great to, you know, obviously meet new people. That's the fun part of having this sort of community and this, you know, this sort of common interest of cars. You know, you get to meet people, you know, even, you know, several years in that you've never met before, and you know, you can strike, you know, common interest immediately just because you're there. So
no, without a doubt, it's interesting to see, and the community keeps growing too, which is absolutely amazing. And I think a lot of it is due to this creative aspect of bringing new playing cards to it, because the more decks that are out there, the more people who resonate with those decks. You know, I mean, not everyone's going to love a bicycle deck or a bee deck or some of the traditional stuff, but they see these new decks which are art in and of themselves, and they're like, oh wow, I never realized people bought decks of cards for fun or for anything other than playing, you know, Go Fish and poker. And opening their eyes to that just brings people into the community in a way that you, like you said, eventually, you know, it might be 3-4 years in, you meet someone new who has been doing it just as long, but you've never crossed paths with before, which is really cool.
Yeah, and you know, with the different kind of genres within the card community, you have your Magic, you have your collecting, you have your Cardistry. They don't all kind of coincide and mingle together all the time, you know. So it's cool when, you know, you hear the name Jackson, you look him up, and you never know, that might be something that you know, sparks a new interest for you. But I think it's cool to for us to commingle, you know, and it only creates more of a community, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I know I get, like, you know, I get a decent amount of messages, you know, every couple of weeks of people who are beginners and who don't know anyone in the community, and they, you know, they sort of like, they're not intimidated to ask, but they're a bit shy, you know, to sort of ask, you know, for advice or for help in any way, and you know, they don't know really where to go in the community. Like they see someone that they like the moves from, and they're like, oh, you know, I'm gonna ask, but they don't really know where to go. And I was like that, you know, back in 2016, and people like Brendan Connor, he, you know, he was helping me out quite a lot, and he was like the, you know, the sort of the person that I was, you know, looking up at. And now these people doing the same here, like I have this, like, you know, sort of need and want to help them out, because, you know, you can see where you can see that they need direction, that they need guidance, but a lot of the time, you know, either some people may be too busy or they just don't want to, but you kind of just really want to help them, because you know that they're the future of this art form. And in order for it not only to survive, but in order for them to enjoy it the same way you did, you need to have that community spirit. You need to have that, you know, and I know it sounds cliche, but really it is the case. You know, you need to have that sort of closeness. Otherwise it's going to fade away, and there's no point to it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and it stifles the creative process as well. I mean, you really look at, like, oh, actually, and I say that, but I also, like, think about people who grow up in areas where there isn't much of a community around them prior, and not even prior to the internet. The internet's been around for a while, but prior to really cardistry becoming worldly, we'll call it, people who created all of these moves in a vacuum for the most part. And then when they finally got to share them with the world, it really, I think, made the community expand so much more quickly, because people were like, oh my God, like, look at all this cool stuff he was doing. Look at this cool stuff I was doing. How do we combine that and create all this interesting stuff? And yeah, you got to keep that going. And I think, you know, the cards are the way that we do it now, because ultimately a lot of times they tell a story, you know, whether it be the Moment X with yours or other decks that cardists or anyone are coming out with now. It's a lot of it's about the visuals. And I think from a cardistry point of view, the moves are amazing, but the same move with 10 different decks can look completely different. And that in and of itself also is really cool. And that's one of the things I really love about your deck is the colors on it. And so this is technically called, it's called the Vivid Edition. And so does that mean that there's ideas for future decks around this? Is this more so a start, a point in time of future potential projects? Or is this something where you've really just realized, like, hey, this is just a very vivid looking deck?
It's funny that you say that. To answer this question, we'll also have to tie in with something Steve said in a few minutes ago, and I'll get to that in a second. But no, I have a lot of ideas for future projects. I know that this is not going to be the only deck. I gave myself 1 month after I released. I give myself one month after the release of the Kickstarter. So I give myself for the entire duration, really, of it. And I told myself, if it gets funded, and it's successful, people are happy with the orders, everything like that goes through, I'll focus on my next one. Until then, I'm not gonna do it because I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to take my focus off of it. Right. However, I do have plenty of ideas for my follow-ups projects, and I do have different things in the works for it right now. It's not going to be any sort of like recoloring of the deck. It would be something completely different. Nice. Within the same theme, it's not going to change the theme of the deck of it being moments in time. However, it's going to be completely different moments, just with a completely different design based on those moments.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and what Steve was saying a few minutes ago about how when people get those decks, in a couple of months' time, and they open up and they're using it in different parts of the world, and they're going to create their own moments. It's like I'm looking actually towards a project that does dive into that as well, and actually sort of bringing people, I guess, more connected through this deck. And I do actually have some stuff that I'm working on right now that should be ready by November if everything goes to plan.
Nice.
In relation to this deck, so it'll be a fun sort of end of the year project to conclude with this deck. It'll be fun, but yeah, it's been a whirlwind, honestly, a good one, but it has been a whirlwind. I'll be honest, like I was like so nervous leading up to the campaign. Like I was like a few hours beforehand, I was thinking, like, what am I doing? I'm gonna go out. It's just gonna flop. I don't even know what I'm doing here. And I was just like completely just freaking out. And after like 3 hours of sort of, just getting my head back to where it was and thinking, I know what I'm doing here. I'm gonna do it. It doesn't work out, but I'm gonna just give it a shot. Forget it. I'm gonna give it a shot. And then when I saw it get, funded within a day and a half, I was like, I'm not gonna jinx it. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just gonna let it run. And in 23 days, I'm gonna celebrate. But for now, no, I'm not gonna do anything. So I'm just.
That's the way to do it. Yeah, Kickstarters are so stressful, and it's funny because once you fund, you're like, all right, I can sleep a little bit easier, but it's still a process through and through.
Not me.
No, it's you guys would know, like it's just like it's so like adrenaline intensive, but it's at the same time such a feeling that you can't replicate. Like you've got this sort of like, especially for me doing it for the first time, it's something that will never, like, again, going to the moments deck, it will never happen again. That feeling of having my first deck out there will never happen again. Yeah. And I was just trying to soak it in as much as I could, and I did. And it was a beautiful feeling. I was up to like 3 a.m. that night getting everything ready and stuff. And when I finally went to bed, I was thinking, this is exactly where I wanted to be. This is exactly what I wanted to do. I've been doing this since 2013, since Now You See Me came out, and I fell in love with cards. And I thought that after I came out of that cinema, I was like, I want to make a deck of cards that, that looks really cool, and that looks like even maybe Monarchs. At that point, I was thinking that that's how it should look like.
Nice.
But look how it all came 8 years later, and that's exactly where I wanted to be. So
I think everybody's shooting for that next Monarch, right? But it's like,
dude, that's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I mean, they obviously had a couple of movies helping propel that design, But
I did.
Yeah, but I mean, you can have your Monarch in the cardistry world,
Hell, I mean, the thing is, what I don't want to do, and I sort of kind of made that firm with myself. I don't want to copy anyone. I never did. I never do. I don't see that. If I can't make anything that's not original, I won't do it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I would much rather have my own, something that's my own, and that can inspire people to do their own thing, rather than to be a watered down copy of someone else just because I want to have it out there. Like I refuse to do it. And if I don't make anything original cardistry move wise or deck wise designs, I won't do it. And I was not happy. I had I think 15 actually designs prior to this one, to this deck. And half the time, like, this deck, it used to be the actual back, it used to have like a massive like green patch like around here. The borders didn't exist. It looked really horrible. And I was thinking, like, I could never sell this. Like, I was like my mother, she's an art historian, so I was like telling her, "Oh, how does it look like?" And she goes, "You really think you can sell this like as it is?" You know, like she's honest and brutally honest, and I love that. And I said, "Well, you know, it looks good, doesn't it?" She goes, "Oh, it looks like shit." So I was like, okay, I need to go back to the drawing board, and I spent the next like 4 weeks just designing this until I came to this deck design. And she goes, "Now that you can sell."
Nice.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Are you gonna show us a few of the cards?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, let's take a look at it, man.
Yeah.
And for anyone who wants a full look at it too, make sure to check out the campaign. The link is in the description below. So for anyone who hasn't backed it or checked it out, you should definitely click that link.
Yeah.
I love this. It's funny too, because like at first it's very abstract, but once you realize the story behind it, you can pick out the elements that you mention in it, which is really cool.
Yeah, we've got this so this part in the middle here. I'm trying to put my finger exactly where the middle of the thing. This is all the graffiti, and it's the graffiti of the number 9, which is paying homage to the age in which I found out about magic, which is at age 9. And these two obviously are the riffles, the top and bottom. But I can just fan it out. You can kind of see where is it going to be on the camera? It's going to be like this, I think.
There you go.
See these little pips around the corner? I made them so that when you fan them out, it does show it completely. So when someone fans it, it has this sort of consistent theme to it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Some of the face cards, I'll show you. So this is like the Queen of Spades, and she's sort of choking in amongst the riffle shuffle. Fingers kind of going through her nose for some reason, but I thought I'd go with it.
Dude, I love that little like relief aspect of her there. Like it's she's there, but she's not. It's almost like phantasmal.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just trying to like make sure it's zoomed in properly so you guys can kind of see.
Yeah, thumbs on her nose.
Thumbs on her nose.
She's kind of doing a Bruce Lee.
You can see that with the jack and stuff, how the hearts are sort of torn apart. But you can also see that the designs on most of these chord cards, they're one way. So you've pretty much got 2 different designs on each end. Cool. Just trying to get some other ones that are going to be. There's actually, hold on. There is. Oh yeah, this is funny. Hold on. I'll show you the Jokers. They're one of my favorites, honestly. And I think like a lot of people do like the Jokers in this one. But hold on, I will get it. I have one Joker, but the other one's kind of like he's MIA. Hold on, I'm gonna find him. See, this is people. Whoever is currently watching this live, even before or after. If you ever go on live, make sure you have the Jokers ready. So this is one of the Jokers. Just I want to add a bit of humor in, and then oops, yeah, just for the fun of it.
Nice.
So yeah, it's just to be playful with it, really, and that's what I really liked about it. Just the sort of playfulness aspect, and yeah, it's just overall a really fun deck.
Yeah, I like the colors.
I love the colorway, and I have to say the one thing that always stands out to me about cardistry decks, more so than other magic-oriented decks or collectors decks, not to say they can't all fit the same niche, but like the one area I always see with cardists who create decks is they're so much more willing to go into the abstract realm of art, and I love seeing that. Like, I mean, even from a collector's point of view, you see like an abstract deck, it's usually like a Pollock deck. So it's like Jackson Pollock artwork on it. And yeah, it's abstract by nature because Jackson Pollock's stuff was abstract, but the ideas are very tangible. But even with yours, even like, while there's a lot of meaning behind it, if you're just looking at it naturally, it's a very abstract piece, which I think is very, very cool.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things, like, you guys would know, you would like a deck the second that you look at it. Give it about 5 seconds, you can see the colors you like, the design you like. And if you don't like it, you're probably going to just scroll down and not look at it again. But if something catches your eye, like the color, for example, you take a second look at it, you take a third look at it, and then you look closer at it. And then you figure out, oh, this has cardistry on it. This has, certain elements that I like. The colors are something that I would use. And, it's as much as having something that grabs people's attention, as well as the design, because look, I go through Kickstarter and I see a lot of decks that I like to back, and I do back. But if I see a deck on first glance and I think I don't necessarily like this color in it, I may or may not buy it. Like there is that aspect. Would I use this deck? I don't know. I don't know if I would take it with me, and use it. That's the same. I know that I would use my ones, but for a lot of the designs I had prior, I would never touch them. I would never touch any of the things I made. And honestly, the designs I made were absolutely atrocious leading up to this. I am ashamed of it. Honestly, looking back on it, I'm thinking, what the hell was I thinking with this?
It's the progression, though, man. It's like it's the progression to where you are today. And I totally agree. I think you know, a lot of taste has to do with color or design or whatever. You know, I'm not a big fan of red decks. So I think
even a nice red deck, Steve will he won't usually go for it.
Yeah, like if I really like a deck, I might back it. But if it's red,
no,
like usually no. You know, but it doesn't mean that I don't like it. But it's just because of the color. I'm not a red fan.
It's just the color. It's the experience that someone has beforehand, like about that. Like you don't have to have any prior notion about that specific deck or the creator. But you just look at it. If you don't like the colors, you're probably not going to use it. So there's no point then in buying it.
Yeah, I'm more of a cool colored person. You know, the blues, the
greens.
Blues, like
I can see in the background, you guys got like the
neon, you know,
purple and orange. Exactly.
It's all about the. I mean, definitely blues. Those cool colors seem to flow better for me as well. But I'm also like a big fan. Like, I mean, I have red decks in the mix as well, and like I don't mind red as much as Steve dislikes it. So
yeah, I think I have literally 2 red decks. One of them's a fake Fontaine deck. So
and one of them's a real Fontaine deck.
And one of them's a real one. Yeah.
fake Fontaine. I would love to know where you got those, because honestly, the red ones are impossible to find nowadays.
Dude, I have. It's called First Time. It was a fake China Fontaine. You can't even tell the difference between the real and the fake one. It's crazy.
Except the handling probably is not as solid.
It's the handling and the box. The box says First Time instead of Fontaine on it, obviously.
Oh my god!
But the back, the card back, identical.
I couldn't tell. Yeah. In use for videos, no one would be able to know. And that's the crazy thing about it. You know, it's interesting to see you build such a successful brand, and of course you'll have people trying to mimic it. So hopefully we see that in the future. Some knockoff Moment X Vivid cards.
I would be honored. I would be honestly honored. I would share it to my story and say, this is exactly what happens when you reach a certain level.
Oh my God, I think that's, as much as no one wants to think about that in the moment, there's got to be a little bit of like a moment of pride there when it happens. But
there's that pride, and then there's that pissed off.
Yes.
It's like, oh, that's pretty cool. Someone copied me. That motherfucker.
Yeah. So now, Andre, one of the other cool things about this deck, which I think is interesting and a kind of a different direction from where we've seen a lot of decks go recently, is this whole blue light aspect of it. And I know there's been a lot of decks recently that have kind of gone for the very like neon UV ink direction, where you flip the black light and it becomes very, very vibrant and very eye-catching. But I feel like yours even almost have a different direction, because they're very vibrant naturally, and you flip this blue light and they almost become more subdued, which is really a unique direction with that. What kind of inspired that?
I was looking through, you know, I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but there is actually, and it's also inspired, the name was inspired. There's a festival here in Sydney that happens annually. It's called the Vivid Festival.
Okay. And
you've got basically the entire city for 2 weeks, every night for about 5 hours, going neon, purple, pink, and blue. That's all awesome. Around the city. And it's like this huge artwork piece. And every couple of minutes, the colors invert and they just switch. And it looks really, really cool, but it also stops people in their tracks, and they're like, oh, this is like a completely different artwork at this point.
Yeah.
And I was looking at my deck and I was thinking, you know, how could I sort of, you know, implement an idea where these colors change? And I was thinking, you know, I don't want it to change dramatically, but I do want to make it something that, you know, for people, if they are in a specific lighting situation and they want to film something, they basically have 2 different decks being held by the same person with one deck. Yeah. And that was the sort of backstory behind it. And I was thinking, you know, like I really do admire, and I love the fact that, you know, with people having their decks that, you know, you can light a torch on them and stuff, and it would be something that you can actually invert, or change color. But I wanted something with my one to have, I wanted to have that natural aspect to it. You know, if you're in a situation where the light is completely like overwhelming the environment and you've got no control over it, you bring out that deck and it will change colors for you. You don't need to do anything with that.
So awesome.
and it's really sick. Like I've tried it out, under different lights. Every single light I've tried it under. The only one that really looks the best in is blue light. It does change color under green, purple, red. It does, but the way that it really changes completely for every single card. For the box turns purple as well for the deck. It's all under blue light, and I thought, everyone sort of, well, not everyone, but most people do have some sort of neon color somewhere, or they may have a LED torch or something rather. Yeah. They can try out at home, and they can sort of, use it. It's like a little bonus thing that you get. Like, I know when I was a kid, I was getting these, for Christmas, if you get like toys, and those toys have added little bonuses to it that you can attach on, and they, do a completely different thing. Yep. I was thinking that would be really, really cool, to have here. So yeah, it's a very nostalgic deck as well for me.
Dude, that's awesome though. And I think that makes it even that much more meaningful though, when it has such an impact on you, but then to also see other people appreciate it just as much, it probably even amplifies that nostalgia and that impact.
100%. And like, I know that retrospectively looking back on it, as someone like I never look at any of my work or any of my deck at this point of cards, and I think that I've done everything perfectly. I didn't, especially with the Kickstarter campaign. I know that there would be a couple of things I probably would tweak and maybe add in, especially with the color changing aspect. I would probably add in a bit more info on it. However, looking back on it, I'm thinking maybe that was a good thing, only because I don't want to I didn't want to sort of, overdo it and then have people, come home, try it, and it doesn't work on certain areas. Like I wanted it to be, the baseline. Try it under here. If it works, great, show me. I want to see it. But if it doesn't work under every color, I didn't want them to have their hopes up for everything. I just wanted it to be under something that I knew for certain. And, in that sense, I just wanted to keep it sort of like, limited to that. Maybe in the future, I'm going to try and make some sort of, deck that can change colors under different lights, like a whole rainbow array. That would be
sick.
Cool.
That would be super really sick. Yeah.
You know what you should do? Just put a nice green blob in the middle of the deck.
Hey, I honestly think that I would get like, I think I would hate myself if I didn't add that green blob in the middle. I'm just imagining it. I don't think I can show you guys here exactly actually, maybe I can. I think I have actually one deck design on my phone. I can maybe show you. It was in one of the first ones that I did.
Nice.
I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna try and find it at least. If I can't, well, that's what it is. But I do really want to try and see it.
Now, how long was the creation process for this deck?
I finished my final design in April this year, but I started the design back in November. Okay. And I had the need to do a deck back in I think May last year. And then after that, it sort of continued, but I kept putting it back on the back burner. I wasn't because I wasn't ready. I wasn't happy to do it at that point in time. I just didn't feel like I should have.
Mom took the inspiration out, huh?
Exactly. Now this was one of the designs. I don't know if you guys can see it. It was absolutely atrocious. I was thinking like, oh god, no, this would never sell. I don't know if this is gonna be like. Oh, there you go. I can let me see it.
Oh man,
interesting.
Yeah, no.
That'd be dope for a tuck box, actually.
It'd be dope for a tuck box, but I was thinking like, oh, this would be great. You've got this sort of like 3D whatever aspect,
and and full bleed too.
Oh, yeah, full bleed. That would look interesting.
Yeah.
I was like,
that would be a disaster. It's a cool tuck box, though. I like it.
Yeah, no, it would make a beautiful tuck box, but for a back design, that thing, that would be visually assaulting.
That would be horrible. Another one was this. It was like, trying around with the fans and stuff, but again, I didn't like it. It felt
too like a Band-Aid.
It does look like a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
It looks like a Band-Aid with blood on it.
Honestly, it does. It really
This is the crime scene deck.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
And I was thinking, like, I'm just so happy I didn't put those up. I'm just so happy that my brain and that my mom told me just don't do it. Like,
Andre, I'm happy for you, buddy. Because when we saw it on Kickstarter, it would have been like, good luck.
It's gonna be one of those decks that just needs help.
Oh my god, man!
The only help it's gonna get is to be taken off Kickstarter.
Yeah,
dude. And instead, though, you've created this beautiful thing that's funded and is gonna become an actual real thing. That's
gonna be amazing. Man. It's gonna be so amazing. it's another couple of weeks for the Kickstarter. I think another 3 weeks until it's done, and after that, it's going to go to USPCC for printing.
Nice.
And the estimated time for people to get it would be October. In the US, early October, especially, and for everyone else throughout October, they'll be getting their decks. So it's going to be great, especially to see them from all around the world getting them. It's going to be really very humbling feeling.
Yeah,
So
and if you know, I think Tyler posted the link in the chat.
I posted the link in the
also
chat.
Be down below.
Oh, cool.
There's also one in the description below. But so with that in mind, if there was one thing you could say to anyone who's on the fence about this deck to really try and convince them to support this project, what would it be? I know that's a tough one, but for anyone who's on the fence, this is the moment.
This is, hey, no pun intended though.
No pun intended. Or
Totally,
was there?
totally intended.
Well, no. If they were on the fence about buying it, what would I tell them to convince them? I would tell them that I would only want you to back it if you can see yourself using it. I don't want you to back it if you A, are not going to use it, and B, if you're buying it because you feel that it's going to be another hype deck. I don't think it will be another hype deck. I'm not aiming for it to be a hype deck.
I mean, it's pretty hot.
I mean, it is pretty hot. Like, you know, like the popularity there, it's growing, and it's very, very big right now, and I'm really happy for it. But like, my purpose for making these cards, along with a lot of other things, obviously, is for people to use them and to enjoy them and to like them and to go out and make their own moments with them. And if you can't see yourself doing that with this deck, it's okay. It's not a problem. Don't back it. But if you can see yourself going out, using them in different scenarios, taking photos with them, making your own moments, focusing on the world around you because of this deck, and having that different thought pattern because of this deck, then do it. I'll be more the merrier, and I can't wait to see how it looks like on your end. So
awesome.
Dude, we cannot see. You're gonna have to create a hashtag now on Instagram for people to post pictures in their moment with your deck as well, just so that you can carry it on. Because I think the whole story beyond just the creation is really such a great aspect of it, and I think you really touched on it beautifully there. So for anyone who has not checked out the deck yet, the link is in the description below. You have about 23 days left before it completely is done on Kickstarter, but we will hope to see this at retailers afterwards as well. But I would highly suggest anyone who's interested in this deck, check it out on Kickstarter. Support Andrey, support the project, and make sure while you're at it to like the video, share, and subscribe. We appreciate everyone coming out tonight. And Andrey, we appreciate you telling us a little bit about the backstory on this, because I think this really is an awesome deck, and I love hearing the motivation behind it.
Thank you guys for having me on. It was really, really fun to speak about it, and for you guys to honestly, you know, help with all of this, and it was just fun talking with you guys. It was really fun.
Dude, absolutely our pleasure. For everyone watching tonight, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we will see you all soon.
Peace.